Good evening and welcome to the Commonwealth Report. I'm State Senator Mark Pacheco, and tonight we're going to be talking with the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection here in Massachusetts, Ken Kimmell. And so I would ask everyone to please stay tuned. We're going to have a short commercial break, and come on back and join us on the Commonwealth Report.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Let's switch to Energy Star light bulbs and stop burning through cash. Saving energy saves you money.
Welcome back to the Commonwealth Report. I'm State Senator Mark Pacheco, and we're here tonight with Ken Kimmell, the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection here in Massachusetts. And I thank you very much, Commissioner, for being here and making time to talk with me and through me and through this program, all the citizens here in southeastern Massachusetts. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So tell me, and all of our viewers, how you got involved with environmental protection in the first place. Now, we know you're the commissioner, but it's always a question I always ask all the guests is how you got to be where you are today as commissioner. You know, what got you involved with this whole issue in your life, and then I'll ask you to just broaden it a little bit and talk about the structure of the agency so people can have a basic understanding as to how the agency actually works.
Sure, well that's great. So my background is I was an environmental lawyer in private practice. I decided to be an environmental lawyer because I love the outdoors and nature, and I wanted to do something in my work life that related to what I really loved. So I picked that field. I did it for about 18 years. I really enjoyed it. I got a lot out of it, but I also felt the tug of public service. And when Governor Patrick won the election, I thought this was the moment for me to try to get into the administration. I applied for a job as the general counsel at the, then it was called the Office of Environmental Affairs. Of course, one of the first things we did was merge it with Energy, so it became the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. I had that job for about 4 years, and then starting with the second term of the Patrick administration, I came in and became Commissioner of Mass DEP. Mass DEP is basically the state's version of the EPA, so our mission is to protect air, water, and the natural resources of the Commonwealth. We have about 800 people with 5 different offices, 1 in Boston and then 4 regional offices, and it's a very mission-driven, competent agency with people who, you know, get up every day wanting to do their best for the people of Massachusetts.
And it's a very significant agency in terms of our public. We just had a program with Public Health Commissioner, and the impact of public health significantly has been environmental changes. You know, nationally and at the state level, and your responsibility in trying to make sure that, you know, our public health through monitoring the regulations that we're safe. We have good air quality, but an immense responsibility. Think about it, folks. The air that we breathe, the water we drink, the land we walk on, he's in charge of all of it. You know, he's in charge of all of it. So here in Massachusetts, so it is an enormous responsibility.
It is, and you know, just a couple weeks ago we saw what happened in West Virginia with a water supply being contaminated and 300,000 people losing their water, not just drinking water, but even bathing. So it really is a very, very significant responsibility, and I think one of the things that I find very heartening, it's not just that my agency is on the top of the game. I think that the local water suppliers are on the top of their game. I think businesses that locate in Massachusetts, they're not really here because they want to cut corners on environmental rules. They do things most of the time the right way, and frankly, Senator, I want to give some kudos to you because you've been a really strong supporter of all the things we do, both our budget but also some of the path-breaking laws that we enforce. So I think there's a really strong bipartisan consensus about environmental protection in Massachusetts, and it's one of the things that makes our state a great place to live in.
Well, we're number one in so many things.
Right.
When we look at our healthcare system, our public health in particular, our environmental, standards are at the top here, along with maybe 2 or 3 other states in the nation. We lead the way.
Yes.
And it's exciting to be in a state where we have that type of national and international influence. Very often. One of those areas is in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, and I know you're playing a significant role in that. And maybe you could explain to the viewers a little bit more. I'm sure they've seen the letters out there, Reggie, and we've talked about Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative a little bit, and have seen it on the nightly news periodically when there's an announcement. But why don't you get a little bit into the weeds, just to explain in general what it means and how it's being implemented.
Sure, happy to. I think this is a great example, actually, of a place where Massachusetts really is leading the nation. So back in 2005, 10 states, it's now down to 9, but the 5 New England states, New Jersey, New York, Delaware, and Maryland, all agreed to work together to collectively reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from our power plants, which is one of the biggest sources of our greenhouse gas emissions. And they wanted to try a different approach. Rather than the traditional approach of government telling every power plant just how much pollution reduction to have, instead they formed a compact, as it were, and set an overall cap on the number of allowances that power plants could purchase for the right to emit the carbon, and with the idea that that cap would go down over time, but we would use market forces to find the most efficient way of lowering those carbon emissions. So the program started in 2005. One of the first things that Governor Patrick did, actually, when he took office, about a week into office, he rejoined Reggie to make Massachusetts part of it. You were a major part of this because the Green Communities Act gave us the statutory authority to be part of it. And so what the program does is 2 things. First of all, it caps and trades allowances for carbon, but we also made the decision not to give away these allowances for free, but to sell them and to reinvest the proceeds in energy efficiency. And so in Massachusetts, about 90% of the $240 million that we've gotten so far from these allowances goes into energy efficiency, which A, saves consumers money, B, further lowers greenhouse gas emissions, and C, helps generate jobs for people doing things like replacing windows and replacing heat pumps and whatnot. So it's been a very, very successful program. But last year we needed to make a major change in it, which is we didn't have a crystal ball when we started the program, and the number of allowances that we were offering for sale was actually a lot more than the power plants needed. And so simple supply and demand, when supply exceeds demand, the price goes way down, and it's not really having the effect on changing behavior. So last year, the 9 states, because we lost New Jersey, we can talk about that later maybe, agreed to lower the cap from 165 million tons a year down to 91, and we're going to cut it another 2.5% every year. And the bottom line is that in 2020, greenhouse gas emissions from the 9 state power plants will be half of what they were in 2005. At the same time, millions of dollars will continue to flow into these states, including Massachusetts, and we'll continue to put that money to good use doing energy efficiency and renewable energy. So really big success story, something we're very proud of, and something we're now trying to sell to the nation as a way to do it in the best possible way.
One of the other initiatives around energy that your agency has been involved with, and it will also have an impact on CO2 emissions, is the new directive that has come out relative to organics to energy, or looking at food waste and how that will be done. Maybe you could explain a little bit more as to how the agency is working on that and how you're moving forward.
Sure, thank you. So we throw out about 1.5 million tons of food waste a year. Most of that waste goes into landfills where it rots and creates methane gas. which is one of the most powerful gases that contributes to climate change, or that waste can get burned in incinerators. There's really a better way to go forward, which is to get that waste out of the waste stream and either compost it and use the product for fertilizer, but even better, you can put that waste in this equipment called anaerobic digesters, which are sealed containers that use microorganisms to break down the food waste, create a gas that you can use for heat and electricity, and also create a very good fertilizer project. So we have a couple of these projects at farms right now, and farmers are using them for their manure, but they're also taking in food waste. And we also have two really exciting projects that are happening. One is Stop and Shop down in Freetown is going to build a digester and take all of their unsold food, so the produce that people don't buy and they can't donate away. They're going to take that food and they're going to create enough energy to provide electricity for about half of their whole warehousing operation in New England. So that's really impressive. The other thing that's happening is the MWRA, which handles our wastewater in metropolitan Boston, has digesters out at Deer Island that are only at about a third capacity. They're going to start taking some food waste too, and they project that they will be able to increase by 5 times the amount of biogas they're creating. They will use that for electricity to cut their electricity costs and save ratepayers money. So the big picture of this is, rather than throwing away this material, we want to tap into its hidden energy value. We want to get economic benefits out of it. We want to get environmental benefits. And we also want to save on our scarce landfill space. As you know, given your district, landfills are closing. And we're not building enough new facilities in Massachusetts to keep up with that. So we're either going to export all that waste, or we're going to find homegrown ways of dealing with it. And this organics program is a way to take responsibility for our waste and turn it into something useful.
And it's also a way to make the options for some of our institutions, our higher education institutions,
Right.
our correctional facilities, other places where there is a lot of food used and also wasted, that food waste can go into a system that actually decreases the cost of energy and greens up the bottom line, so to speak. And so,
exactly.
And so I want to thank the administration for moving forward on this, and I know that there's a great challenge that Secretary Sullivan has in terms of, moving this whole program forward, and I hope there will be some, in particular in the public agencies that are out there that may watch this program, that want to get involved and call the commissioner and call my office and say, let's be one of the first pilots out there, and let's get this going, because it saves taxpayers money at the end of the day.
It does, and I'm glad you brought that up, because 2 of the correctional facilities are interested in having digesters, and UMass Amherst is also interested. So I'm hoping that this year they're going to move forward on those projects, and it will be a great way to lead by example and save money for state agencies.
And when you get those best practices out there, then it's easy to replicate those practices, because people can. I was out to the Harvard forest the other day to look and see what they're doing in terms of their biofuels, project. And now that many more jurisdictions will see what Harvard is doing with their forest, and they're signing off on it. They're having a tremendous amount of savings. It's also a sustainable way to move forward. We will see more interest in that area, I think.
No, I think you're right, and I did want to remind you and thank you too that part of the financial incentives for this anaerobic digestion were found in the energy bill that you worked on a couple of years ago.
Yes.
There were some very good incentives that we provided for solar and wind energy, but we hadn't for anaerobic digestion, and so the change in the law was to put that technology on a level playing field with the others, and that's very helpful.
And we'll be looking at doing some more in that regard, in particular as we move forward with the environmental bond and seeing what else we can do to incentivize these smart ways of moving forward and embracing these new technologies that can save us energy, improve our public health, and save taxpayers money.
Right.
And talking about that, how about talking about the Environmental Information and Public Access System?
Sure.
Because I think that that also improves efficiency and something that the viewers, I'm sure, will be interested in.
Yeah, so we're really excited about this. DEP was an early agency to try to use computer technology to improve its performance, but we were such early leaders that we now have very, very outdated equipment. We have stuff from the 90s, and we really haven't had the funds to invest in that. At the same time, as you know, like a lot of state agencies, we've suffered some severe losses in personnel. So the onus is upon us to figure out a way to become more productive. Fortunately, the governor has approved a project that will really revolutionize and transform the way we do environmental protection in Massachusetts, and it's called IPASS, and it's going to be a secretariat-wide endeavor. But here are some of the things we hope to do. First of all, by overhauling our IT systems, we're going to get all of our permitting done online. We're going to make it really easy for businesses to apply for permits. If you've ever used something like TurboTax, you realize how even something complicated like filing your taxes can be made a lot easier with good systems. So that's what we're hoping to do there. We're going to allow businesses that interact with us to have their own protected portal, which will store all of their environmental information. It will notify them about inspections coming up. It will tell them when rules are changing. In other words, the cost of keeping up with everything and complying will be lowered through that technology. Another aspect that I'm very excited about, believe it or not, when people want information from us, particularly people who have to travel long distances and go to one of our offices and pull a file and stand at a photocopier and put coins in to photocopy. That's pretty crazy in the 21st century. So part of what we're going to do is create systems where people can access our data. So if you live, let's say, in a town and there's an incinerator there and you want to know what's the record, how's it doing, what's it putting in the air, from your computer you'll be able to access our data. And then to me, probably the most important thing is, as a manager, I want to know, which industries have the best compliance records, which ones not, where should we be targeting our scarce dollars, and we don't have the ability right now to produce that kind of data.
Well, I'm excited about it as well, because I think it also, even within an agency like yours, just within DEP, traditionally there have been some siloing of different sections. I know you're trying to get through that and trying to make sure everybody's talking to one another, and it becomes even more difficult when you look at all the energy and environmental agencies and the importance of everybody being able to talk with each other, in particular when we're trying to resolve and implement these comprehensive strategies that lower CO2 emissions, working on different projects. So I think that will help out, and it's understandable how those estimates can be as high as what was it, $27 million in savings. In savings
after year 5. Yeah.
That's savings to you and I, the taxpayers of Massachusetts, because of a technology-related issue that is being implemented right within the Department of Environmental Protection. So we thank you very much for that.
Well, and thank you for the support. Obviously, the funding ultimately comes from the legislature, so we really appreciate that.
Now, when you think about the agency as a whole, just break that down again. I mean, you have certain divisions within DEP, and how many in total? I could try to list them, but I won't do so. But so that the viewers will have a better understanding.
Sure. So it's broken down. We have a Bureau of Resource Protection, which is really water. So it handles water pollution, drinking water, wastewater, wetlands, tidelands. So any natural resources involving water. Then we have a Bureau of Waste Prevention, which deals with air and solid waste issues. And then we have a Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup, which you're very familiar with because you have some sites in your district, which deals with getting hazardous waste sites cleaned up. So those are the main divisions, and then as I said, we have 4 regional offices where a lot of the day-to-day permitting and enforcement work goes on. And what's nice about those regional offices is, as you know, they tend to create some good relationships with local political leaders, business leaders, environmental groups. So a lot of the work gets done there.
I must say the business sector as well depends on those regional offices for quick responses. The local leaders, the mayors, the members of the Board of Selectmen, the town managers, etc., need to have a good working relationship so that they know what the rules and how the implementation is going for some of the cleanups that are going on, or just the permitting requirements that are taking place. So.
Well, it really is key, and this was something that the governor made very clear to us, that he appreciated the work we were doing and liked the fact that we were protecting the environment, but he really encouraged us to figure out a way to do permitting a little bit faster and to be more decisive, and we have. We now get about 97% of our permits issued under 6 months, about 80% under 3 months. And I think if you go around in the business community, you'll hear less talk about how they can't get something done because it's being held up at DEP. We've really worked hard, even with declining resources, to make sure that we do things quickly. And I think when this overhaul of our IT systems is done, it'll be even faster.
That's good. That's good news to hear.
Yeah.
Now listen, we've got a few minutes left in the program. We've got to take a short break, and we'll be right back. We've been talking with Ken Kimmell, the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection here in Massachusetts. And so please stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the water infrastructure here in the Commonwealth.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Welcome back to the Commonwealth Report. I'm State Senator Mark Pacheco, and we've been talking with Ken Kimmell, the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection here in Massachusetts. An immense responsibility in trying to protect our drinking water, our air, our land, all of the issues that impact our environment and our public health. And so I thank you for your leadership in the agency, and I thank you for being with us tonight. One of the things I said we'd talk about when we came back from the break was the whole water infrastructure issue. It's something that if you're a local water operator, if you're dealing with a water department or you're a drinking water supplier, you're very familiar with. But for the rest of us, the average citizen, we just want to make sure when we turn the tap, faucet on, that we have some good, clean drinking water, and that our drinking water in our wastewater systems are working adequately. And the infrastructure needs in the Commonwealth are just immense, in the billions of dollars, because of historic neglect in terms of investment in these systems. And so tell us a little bit about where you're coming from on this, and what DEP is looking at and the administration is trying to do, and your reaction to some of the legislative initiatives that have come out.
Sure. Well, first of all, we're really glad that water is front and center this year. Water is in a way a victim of its own success, because we turn on the tap and it's clean and it's plentiful. I brought up the West Virginia story. We don't have a lot of stories like that. We deliver clean, safe water to millions of people, and we protect our water bodies from wastewater quite well. So people tend to take it for granted. And they don't realize everything that goes into it. But just as you said, we have very, very old, aging infrastructure. We have pipes that were built 100+ years ago that are leaking, that eventually will get to a point of disrepair that they can't be used. And so you really want to address problems like that before that happens. So that's one thing. We also have some real water challenges in Massachusetts. Although we get plenty of rain and it's well divided, in some communities we're drawing so much water out of the ground that we're actually making streams and rivers run dry in the summers, and that's not really something that we should have. So it's really about making some wise and prudent investments in our water infrastructure, both to deal with the leaky, aging pipes, but also to transport water from where there's an excess to where there's a deficit. And I think that the water bill that's before the Senate and the House really gets at some of those issues in a constructive way.
Yeah, and we've got a significant amount of work that needs to be done out there. I must tell you, cities and towns, I know in my district, can't wait to see if there are some more resources to make the investments that they know they need to make.
That's right. And on top of that, there continues to be a lot of environmental requirements that local communities have to deal with too. And some of those are going to be increasing as EPA deals with stormwater, for example. And so I really do think that there's a need at the state level to provide some help here. And we're frankly, very excited about the fact that the legislation is out there and we've gotten people talking about it. And I think there seems to be a consensus that something needs to be done, which is great. What exactly that's going to be will play out, but I think it's you and others have done a very, very good job of building support for it.
Certainly whatever we finalize will not solve the entire problem, but incrementally we will start to see some improvements and head in a direction that will start to define more clearly what we ought to be doing. Listen, we have maybe a couple of minutes left, and I think it's important to give you an opportunity to talk to the citizens in southeastern Massachusetts here, or out there on the other part of the side of this this studio, to let them know what else you see happening at DEP, what you would like to let them know about what you will be doing over the next year. In what they can be doing, maybe to, if they have an issue, and how to connect with DEP, maybe through one of the regional offices.
Sure. So our regional office is located in Lakeville. It's pretty strategically located. I don't have the phone number right off the top of my head, but we can provide that. And we have a very good regional director, Phil Weinberg, who is a DEP veteran. We have an exceptionally talented staff of people there, and I would say that the Southeast region is one of our busiest regions. It has a number of large industrial cities which have a legacy of contaminated sites, so there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done on that. Another thing that's been exciting in the Southeast region, we've seen a lot of municipal landfills that are closed put solar arrays on top of the landfills, which is just a great use of money use of land to use it productively. There's always issues in the Southeast about water use, and so we're very conscious about that and making sure that we have the right balance. But in general, I would say that we're working hard and in close cooperation with people in your district and elsewhere to keep the environment safe in the Southeast and throughout the Commonwealth.
Well, thank you very much again for your leadership, in particular when we talk about water and we talk about Assawamsett, for example, and the partnerships that we've put in place working with local water departments and communities. The agency has been fantastic, and we look to the DEP to give us the proper direction to do what's right on behalf of meeting our water needs, but also ensuring that public health needs are being met. So I thank you very much, Commissioner, for being with us, and I thank all of you at home for tuning in to the Commonwealth Report.